With Digimon Survive now out on all major platforms worldwide, there has been a lot of discussion from both Digimon and non-Digimon fans alike regarding the direction in which the game takes, with it being a visual novel / tactical RPG. A extremely common sentiment and criticism I see from fans is that there is a lot of dialogue in the game and you have to skip through a lot of it if you want to get straight to the gameplay. Conversely, I have seen a lot of praise for the story being really well put together, and I sort of wanted to talk about what I think is going on here and my sort of take on all of this, because this was a point of contention I was kind of expecting leading up to the release of the game, but not really persisting as it is now. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about whether or not the criticism is justified and why I think people may have their expectations not too high, but rather in the wrong place altogether. Anyways, let's dive in. Alright, so if you don't know by now, Digimon Survive is more than just a story-driven tactical RPG. In a game like that, you'd expect to have a lot of dialogue and character development and all that fun stuff, but you'd also expect to have some sort of world to explore. Instead, what we have here is essentially an interactive visual novel with a very, very heavy emphasis on its characters and story, with the only real exploration being that you can sort of move around with a pointer, click on stuff, and change which rooms you're in. The bulk of gameplay outside of this is the tactical RPG aspect, which we will get into in a bit. There is a 70-30 split between the visual novel side of things and the tactical RPG aspects, which was something that was made very clear and public before launch. In terms of the intro of the game, it took me roughly an hour before I was into the actual tactical RPG aspects, and it was very clear from the get-go that that part of the game does take the back seat while the visual novel story elements take the forefront. Now, I've seen a lot of comments on my first Let's Play, which you should totally check out, by the way, of people saying that 1 hour is way too long and there's too much dialogue, etc. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what people were expecting, considering the fact that this was made very clear from the get-go. I'm not trying to invalidate anybody's criticism. I can definitely understand why you wouldn't want to play a game like this, but given the context, that being the fact that we already knew about this, and some of the really harsh critique or flat out denial that this should even be a game, I do think that this should be made clear, because it's kind of getting unfair criticism from Digimon fans that realistically never wanted this game to begin with and now are complaining about it because it's out. If you're someone who's been waiting for another Digimon story title or was a fan of some of the older games, I can totally understand your frustration, but you'd think that these types of qualms would have already been discussed when the game was revealed and would be redundant at this point, since a lot of us already knew what we were getting into. Furthermore, as a Pokemon fan myself, I do find it kind of funny that people are freaking out about the 1 hour of story leading up to the first battle and sort of main gameplay, when that's literally what Sun and Moon did. Sure, it had a little bit of gameplay sprinkled here and there, but it was basically a full hour, if not a little bit more, with no important dialogue outside of the intro scene with Lily and Cosmog. I'm not trying to say one is better than the other, but at least in Digimon Survive's introduction, there is actual character moments, and it sets up the dynamic for the rest of the game, where I feel like, especially with most modern Pokemon games, they oftentimes miss that mark, and you end up just reading walls of text about how great Pokemon are with very little substance. If you're the type of gamer that generally skips dialogue and just wants to get straight into the meat of things, you probably will not like this game. I've always personally been of the opinion that I don't mind a lot of dialogue as long as that dialogue is interesting, and so far from what I've played with Digimon Survive, that definitely seems to be the case. The game's had some great moments and reinvigorated some of that Digimon adventure magic for me, and you guys know that I'm the type of person who generally prefers a game with a world to explore and all of that stuff, but honestly, I have not felt like this game was a drag whatsoever. Now, with all that being said, again, I'm not trying to downplay anybody's criticisms with the game. That's never healthy, nor do I condone flat-out dismissals of dissenting opinions. I think the major issue a lot of fans are having with the game isn't necessarily the game itself. It's not that the game has a bad story or the tactical RPG aspects are no good. I think a lot of people just have an issue with the fact that it's just not the genre of game that they'd like to play, and they want to see another Digimon World game or another Digimon story or whatever. Most criticisms I've seen aren't really about the game as it exists within the genre, it's more so about the genre itself. Comments like, oh, I would have read a book if I wanted to read, or the very common, I don't like reading and it takes too long to get into the gameplay, which quite literally are two major aspects of the type of genre that this game is a part of. So to make a relatively short discussion even shorter, I think that Digimon fans who wanted more from the franchise and have had these very large gaps between games, and even worse, have had to see games release only in Japan, do have a reason to be disappointed if this isn't their type of game. But at the same time, there are just as many Digimon fans who are enjoying this game and do like the direction in which it went, and at the end of the day, there is another Digimon story title in the works, which I'm personally really excited for. So does the game have too much dialogue? Honestly, for the type of genre it is, I don't think so. If you're someone who likes watching anime or reading manga, you'll really enjoy sitting through the story and seeing what everybody has to say and understanding the dynamic and experimenting with choices. If you're the type of person who doesn't like to sit through that stuff and you don't care to be told a story while you're playing video games, yeah, you probably won't have that much fun, and that's just the result of it being a visual novel, not necessarily that the game is bad. Me personally, I don't like farming games very much, but I wouldn't expect a farming title to make farming just completely optional and something I can completely skip just for me. It's the same sort of dynamic here. One saving grace for those that don't want to sit through dialogue in copious amounts in a row is that you can go into free battle mode, which allows you to grind as much as you please in any given area to sort of give you a break from the story aspect. So if maybe you don't want to binge the story all at once, you can make breaks and facilitate more gameplay yourself. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. Do you think people are right to criticize the game for being a visual novel, despite that being something they've basically said from the start? Or maybe you think that they should have made a different type of Digimon game to begin with the resources that were taken and used for Digimon Survive. Or maybe you have a mixed viewpoint. Definitely let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe for more Digimon and overarching monster taming content. You can also check out my Twitter, my Discord, and my Patreon, all links below. And just wanted to say special thanks to the patrons, especially Jim Hamilton, Steel Case, Dark Persona, and Dro Ghost. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.